What do you rate the movie?
Think
about all aspects. The cinematography.
Yeah.
The enjoyability.
You ready?
I guess so.
I give it a...
Damn. That's low.
I think it's fair.
You're fucking gray 2.0, bro.
Nuh-uh.
Yes,
At least
are.
I don't change my shit.
I don't change mine.
Well, I just said it, so you can't say that that's the rule and then dog my rating after I say it.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Crown Cinema Podcast. In this episode, because it's... What season is it?
It's spooky season.
We're going to watch The Shining this episode. Stanley Kubrick's classic. It's critically acclaimed. Came out in 1980. It's got huge ratings on IMDb. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Have you not?
I've never seen it.
Oh my gosh. It's a classic.
I know. See, I've only seen Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket, and I've only seen Apocalypse. No, Apocalypse Now is not him. What else has he made?
I don't know. You were just on the IMDb page.
All right. Let me see.
This was, you have to say that this was my pick whenever you were...
You're right.
Because y'all wanted to do spooky movies. And I was like, oh, a classic. It's The Shining. I said The Shining, and then y'all have to do Halloween.
Yep.
Which I don't know if y'all are doing that. But I like that I get to be on this episode with The Shining.
You did pick it.
Yeah.
You told me, and I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. We should do that.
Yeah, it's a Stephen King, too, which is like the king of horror.
Oh, it's Dr. Strangelove.
Oh.
You seen that one?
No.
It's about it's in black and white, and it's about a general.
Yes, and he's a Nazi?
No, he's a general fighting the Nazis.
Oh.
I think.
No, he ends up,
it's during the Cold War.
Oh, was that not the black and white? Do you remember when we were in college and we were both watching black and white movies?
That was Dr. Strangelove.
Yes, yeah, and he ends up being a Nazi at the end. The guy that, remember, he couldn't keep his hand down from doing the...
Oh, yeah. Right.
Who was really paying attention.
Yeah, I forgot. That's a pretty major part of that movie. I forgot about that. But
yeah, what was I watching? I was watching Psycho. I was watching Psycho for a class.
Psycho? Oh.
No. Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock's movie?
Yeah.
Oh.
We were both watching black and white movies. And I think it was around Halloween. We were dating. We were in the frat house and laying in bed and just both watching separate movies for classes. Yeah, with our laptops.
No, you watched Dr. Strangelove with me.
I watched the end with you. That's how I know how it ends.
Oh, okay. All right.
Crazy.
Anyway.
I have to tell you about the show I've been watching.
Tell me.
It's so freaking good. I watched it while you were in Chicago. So when I was in college, I was taking a bunch of American horror and like Gothic classes. They were the only ones I liked. That was when I had switched over to literature, and I was taking these classes and they were interesting me so much. Well, at the same time, I started watching the show The Haunting of Bly Manor, and I was like, this is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. And so as I'm like reading these short stories of Henry James, which is one of the early evidences of horror in American literature.
What was stories like back then? Like, what made his different? What's his horror movie?
Okay, so
horror story like? What is it like?
This is what makes like the Gothic and the horror genre. There's certain like tropes that happen, and a lot of it is setting. So it's like a scary castle, or it's very simple. A lot of these are short stories, and they were released in newspaper form. So that's how people would make money. That's how these writers would make money.
That's how Stephen King made money. It was magazines, not newspapers. I think he did some newspapers, but eventually magazines and would write stories. So that's how he got his start.
That was like one of the most interesting things I learned in these classes, was that a lot of this was like they were trying to make money off of people liking their stories. So a lot of these classics like Bram Stoker's Dracula was released that way. Mm-hmm. And halfway through the book, the whole entire plot kind of changes. And my professor, shout out Nicholas Brush, one of the best professors I ever had, he told me that was because if the people didn't like it, then they would have to change it, because that's the only way they would make money. So long story short, Henry James, I'm reading these short stories and I'm seeing these parallels in this show that I'm watching. So then I pick up The Haunting of Hill House, which is a novel by Shirley Jackson. Loosely based off of it. All the names are the same.
The show is, you're saying?
Yes. Yes. And it's this one creator. His name is Mike Flanagan, and he's only like directed and created these shows, and they're so freaking good. Like, you go on his IMDb page, all it is are these shows. And so Midnight Mass was another one. It came out. He releases them around Halloween time every year. So Midnight Mass came out, and it's based off of Salem's Lot, Stephen King's Salem's Lot. So he released another one. It's called The Fall of the House of Usher, and it's based off of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories. That one takes the name, there's that one, but then it's also the Raven makes appearances, that symbolism in there. And like I said, it's really loosely based. What I like about it is they use the same actors, so you start to know the actors, and you watch them in these different stories, kind of like American Horror Story does. And then I like how every episode, it gives you like a piece of the puzzle, because that's the type of stuff I want to write, is that has these deeper meanings and has these ties to literature, but take a modern spin on it. And I am obsessed with these. Like, Mike Flanagan, I am your biggest fan. I am so just like, and I'm on episode 4 of this one, and I can't watch it at night because it freaks me out, but it's really, really good.
What is this one about?
This one is about this really rich typhoon family. It's like they're a pharmaceutical company. And this one guy, Roderick Usher, which is like the same name in the Edgar Allan Poe short story, he has like 7 children, right? And they're on prosecution from the U.S. Attorney's Office for making this opioid that starts an opioid pandemic, and they're profiting off of it. So they're in this giant, lawsuit from literally the federal government, and all of his children start dying off, right? And you're seeing these parallels. Spoiler alert, I think, I'm on episode 4 right now, I think early on when they were younger, because it keeps on flashing back, whenever him and his sister were younger and they were trying to change the world and make money, because they didn't come from a lot. Their mother died when they were young. I think they made a deal with the devil, and the devil's coming back to claim each of his children. So we know starting out that all of his kids die. We just don't know how. And he's like confessing to the DA, he's like, I know what happened. So he's telling the story, and each episode is like kind of following how each of his children die.
Damn.
And so we'll learn at the end why.
That sounds crazy.
It's awesome. It's so good. The story is so good. It's shot really, really well. It makes you feel really unsettled. There's jump scares. The acting is awesome. I love it all.
Fuck a jump scare.
Yeah.
I do not like a jump scare.
Yeah. It
Sometimes
gets your
they're
adrenaline
fun.
pumping. It makes it fun.
Sometimes they're good when it's like not a scary movie and they fucking jump scare you. When it's not like a scary movie, but like it's like an action movie or something where there's like fighting in it and like someone will jump out at you and you're like, God damn it.
Well, because I'm that person. If I get jump scared, I get pissed.
No, your ass makes me jump. I don't jump. Usually when those scenes, like I don't jump, but I, feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you don't react, but you still feel it in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I usually feel. But whenever your ass goes, my ass goes, oh, what? Because we're watching it together all the time.
Yeah.
So you make me jump because you are a jumper.
Do you feel like that's a knee-jerk reaction for you? Because I've always felt like that. Like when you jump out and scare me, I get pissed, like really fast.
Dude, you're the
and
easiest
then I
person to scare. You're the easiest person to scare.
Yeah.
You've only scared me good one time. It was that one time when we were
with the mannequin head.
Yeah, I was brushing my teeth or something. And Mercedes, when she was in cosmetology school, she used to have these mannequin heads that she had to work on. And they were just like, creepy looking heads that just had hair that you had to cut, right? And so one time I was like brushing my teeth or washing my hands, something in our bathroom. And right behind our bathroom, like you can see behind you in the mirror, is a corner to the more open space of the apartment. And I look up to look at my teeth or myself, and I see right behind me a little mannequin head, like sideways popped out. And I didn't jump or anything or scream, but I just felt a just like cold shiver through my entire body. Like my heart dropped. And then I was like, immediately, like half a second later, I was like, oh yeah, that's just like this motherfucker. She's using her mannequin head on me. But that cold shiver was like just so not. It was so eerie seeing a little mannequin head staring at me.
Yeah. Do you think that's worse than like a jump scare? Do you feel like that feeling of unsettling would be worse than like a jump scare right behind you?
No. Jump scare's worse.
Yeah. I have so many, or I used to have, now I have like only one or two just in case if I have to like do something on them at work. But I used to have so many of those in my trunk. And there was one time that I closed my trunk and the hair was like sticking out.
Oh my God.
Dude, I noticed it. Thank God. Because I probably would have gotten stopped on the road. Like, yes,
maybe.
In my trunk, there was human hair laying out of my trunk. Holy shit.
You spilled some red dye.
Oh
right
my gosh.
By it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had red dye in your hands when you shut the door, leaves blood finger marks. Could you imagine a cop pulls you over with this gun ready because he thinks you have a dead body in your trunk, and you're like, it's just a mannequin head. And he's like, what the fuck?
What a misunderstanding.
That's had to have happened at least once.
I mean, I would think like if you are already getting stopped like for something else and they kind of peek back there and they see it, like if it's laying down, good enough, maybe.
No, I mean the hair out of the trunk.
Oh, I don't know anybody else that's done that.
I'm saying I feel like if that happens, that's got to happen often with stylists or people that are in cosmetology school, right?
Yeah.
Put mannequins in their trunk and then the hair popping out that's got to be common within people.
Oh yeah.
Or within that people.
I bet we can ask someone. They're like, oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
I see.
All right. So when's the last time you seen The Shining?
I was a kid when I saw it. My dad was a big Stephen King fan, with no regard on what children should watch. Yes.
I didn't know that.
It's a book based. That's why I said.
Sorry.
Actually, so growing up, my parents were big Friends fans, and so am I. And there's this one episode where Joey like reads The Shining and gets scared and puts it in the freezer. And him and Rachel, like Rachel loves Little Women, and so they swap books. And she's like getting scared, and he's like getting emotional because people die off in Little Women, and then. It's funny. At the end, he decides to put Little Women in the freezer because he didn't like it. But the movie itself, I haven't read the book yet. I definitely want to, but I've heard that it's pretty closely adapted to it. Yeah. But you haven't seen like that meme of all the blood coming out of the elevator?
Maybe. But
I tell you, that's what me and my friends used to send each other when we were on our period.
But generally, like a book remake that is, a book remake that's critically acclaimed is usually going to be a pretty solid adaptation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is not a critically acclaimed movie, but like the Gray Man book and movie the movie was a really good adaptation of the book.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm really critical about that though, because I love books, and then I feel like it's never done well, except for, so Reese Witherspoon remember I took you with me to go see Where the Crawdads Sing? That was probably the best one I've ever seen. And that was her production company. Yeah. And she has like a book club. She does really, really good adaptations of books.
Dune's a pretty good adaptation.
Yeah, that's pretty, well, we'll see. Like, I remember you talking about like the trailer and stuff, and I need to finish it before it comes out. Thank God it got pushed back so that I have more time to finish it, because it was losing me. I was like dragging on, and all my coworkers tell me to read other books, so then I pick up other books. I'm audio booking one at the same time. But yeah. Dune's
legit.
Yeah.
The book is legit.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on. Even like the actors. Well, because I had already seen the movie, and what I like to do when I read books is to picture actors that I picture in that role. Yeah. And so I already had them in my head. So when I watch the movie again after already reading a little bit of the book, I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty spot on. The casting.
Yeah, it was weird as a kid because I read Hunger Games as a kid. So it's weird reading a book and you come up with the characters in your mind when there's not a movie, right? Because there wasn't a Hunger Games movie. It was coming out. Yeah. And so I was reading the book. I read the book first. And you start to try to picture these characters in your mind, and then when they get casted, you're like, that's not what they look like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you have to try to like, it's hard to
differentiate.
It's hard to put your mind back, or it's hard to enjoy it without not seeing the people you saw in your head.
Yeah.
Versus seeing the actors. It takes a little bit of adjustment time to get used to it.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty funny.
That's how I was about Divergent, because I read them when they came out, and I remember I had the flu. I was in like 5th grade or something, and I couldn't sleep because my fever was so high, so I would just read them all throughout the night. That was something that my parents or my dad would never tell me no about, was buying books. Like if I bought a book and I was going to read it, he'd buy me as many books as I wanted, because he's a pretty avid reader too. Not as much now as he was when I was growing up, but like he's read his Stephen King collection is insane. So anytime I want like a good recommendation on books like that, I ask him. But that's how I felt about the Divergent ones. When those movies came out, they sucked ass. I was so pissed because those books were good as hell.
I read the first one just because I liked Hunger Games, and this was the next, same type of movie and book.
Yeah.
And I liked Hunger Games, so I'm like, okay, I'll give Divergent a shot. So I read them, but I didn't really get into them. Like I didn't finish them. I just felt like they were just copies of the...
Yeah.
They're not really copies of Hunger Games. It's a different story, but it's just kind of the same like type of story.
A false utopian society.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't into the Divergent ones.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense if you picked up one, because I didn't pick up Hunger Games. I picked up Divergent.
You tried to read Hunger Games?
I wanted to read them like a few months ago, and I just got sidetracked with other books.
They're good.
But I never read them growing up or anything. So, but I feel like when we were growing up, there was a lot of like false utopian, like that was like a thing.
Yeah, because Hunger Games probably made a shitload of money.
Yeah.
Let's look. Where's my phone?
Yeah.
Oh, right here. Let's see how much that Hunger Games made, and then we'll go watch the movie.
Not Hunger Games. I'm going to watch The Shining.
Yeah, but I want to see the Hunger Games, like how much it made before we go watch it. Because, okay, yeah. Box office is $694 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
It made more than $500 million.
Yeah.
That's why there were so many dystopian things afterward, because that was a fucking giant success. I'm sure Divergent was as a success too.
No, I don't know, because those movies, maybe the first one, because I went and watched the first one, and I was bitching the entire time. I was like, this sucks. But not as much, but it still made $288 million, which is still solid. So they're like, hey, we knew. Yeah, but Hunger Games also started like, it was similar to Twilight in that it started like a giant fandom. Yeah. Like if you were a fan of the Hunger Games, you were a fan. Yeah.
Another one of those movies is Maze Runner.
Yeah, that was one of those too. That came out, those books came out around the same time. Another one. And then like I remember around that time. And
Divergent came out around the same time, right?
Yeah.
That was when they're trying to get their money grabbed. Yeah. The production companies were like, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's make some money.
Did you read, I had to read The Giver.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one. And I liked whenever the new movie came out.
Okay.
About that one. That one was good.
Here's a box office total of the 3 films. It made almost $1 billion in total.
Yeah. Off of YA, essentially.
What is YA?
Youth author. Young, it's like young books for younger kids.
Is it? Yeah, I guess not really. It's kind of violent.
Yeah, but on the page, it's not really. It's not like anything sexual happens.
It's like PG-13.
That's where I think the cutoff is. Well, also like what may be labeled as YA now may not. Whenever we were kids, it was. I feel like parents weren't paying attention. Like there were some things that. Books I read now like were labeled as YA until just recently, man. And I would read them. I'd be like, I wouldn't want my kid reading this. This is a little spicy.
Well, that's some. But also, it seems like kids are like people are a lot more lenient on kids, and it seems like kids cuss a lot younger.
Yeah, because like it's just exposure to things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like think about
kids
how
just
much
know a little bit more bad things earlier on.
Yeah. Because even like with Jace, like being on his iPad and stuff, like even though the videos are for kids, there's ads that may have cuss words. And, like little kids go to school and older siblings like say stuff around them because they think it's funny,
and they'll hear
they hear it on TV.
They hear their family members that mess up around them, like me and you do all the time.
All the time. At this point, it's
Slip
like
an F word. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. At this point, it's just like we just need to.
We're good at it now, though. We were bad for a second there, but we fixed ourselves.
Yeah, but they're just more. Think about how much like replace you and I growing up and going outside and like riding our bikes to like kids like being on an iPad, and tell me which one more is going to expose them to like cussing. Well, I don't know. It depends on who you're meeting with on the street, man.
Yeah, no, you definitely hanging out with your buddies when you start cussing.
Yeah.
They start making you, dude, say that F word.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, which is like, it's so terrible to hear a child say that.
It's also hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's also like, I don't know. There's a complex there for sure. It's like, ooh, it's like that should not be coming out of your mouth. I mean, if it's vulgar, yeah, a little F word every once in a while is kind of funny.
You're a shit.
Yeah.
Like I love that story of Chris Pratt's whenever he's
Oh yeah, he was his kid.
Yeah, when he's going fishing.
Yeah.
Here, hold on. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna grab my laptop. All right, now I can record this video so we can watch it actually on the podcast.
Yeah.
Can you hold this mic real fast?
It's pretty handy. Double fisting it.
Thank you. I had to start my screen recording. All right. So yeah, I want to look up that. It's a funny video with Chris Pratt when he's talking about his kid fishing. When he allows his boys when when they're out fishing, they can cuss. That's when you're allowed to cuss because you're fishing with the boys.
Which is a much nicer way to say, like, because I feel like a lot of dads will be like, oh, you can cuss when you're not around your mom. But it's like, hey.
Yeah. All right. We'll just play the short.
I had this rule with my old man, and I have it with my son, which is when you're fishing, you can swear. And so we're out fishing, he catches a fish, and I'm trying to get him to take a picture with the fish before we let it go, and it flops out of his hands, and these bass have these little spines on their back, and the fin pokes him in the hand, falls in the water. He starts to cry, and he's like, oh, and I said, hey, buddy, are you all right? You all right? He said, oh, Dad, I'm about to swear. I said, hey, you know the rules. And he goes, that bass is stupid. Because, I think we say, hey, don't say someone calls someone stupid, that's bad. You shouldn't say that. And he continues to cry. I said, did you feel better? He said, a little bit stupid bass. And I was like, all right, buddy, yeah, now's the time, get it out. And he goes, that stupid bass is a fucking pussy.
That's the funniest thing. It's almost like he delivers that like a comedian. The way he tells that story.
Well, he's a funny actor. I just watched Parks and Rec for the first time.
I guess you're right.
I was like, he is hilarious on there. Who did he used to be married to another actress, and she is also so funny, and he definitely has those kids with her.
I don't know. I wish I didn't just
so
shut my
funny.
laptop.
Oh, yeah.
I stopped the whole thing.
Bummer.
It's all right. All right. You gonna go watch The Shining?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go. And we're back. We just watched The Shining. And I just want to first say, Jack sucks.
Yeah.
From the get-go, he sucks.
Well, did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I realized that I actually was more afraid of it because I feel like I haven't really watched it as an adult, but there were some things I would see and I'm like, oh, that must have scarred me as a child because it was like bringing it up from the back of my brain. I was like, oh shit, I don't like that.
Well, I just felt like I just had this constant just base anxiety the whole movie. You just have this anxious feeling the whole movie because even from the beginning, Jack's like very weird. He seems so sarcastic in everything he says. Yeah,
literally everything he says, even whenever they're just giving him the lowdown, the job, and they're like, is that okay? And he's like, yeah, that's totally fine. It's like, do you mean that?
Yeah, he's always so weird. He's never normal. And so you're kind of like, they trust this guy to run this place?
Well, also it kind of, what an actor to be able to portray that, because we'll get into it later on in the movie, how his, like, you can see him morphing into something else, but it's very apparent early on that something is up with this guy.
Yeah.
It's a very, like you said, an uneasy feeling. I just like already don't like the look of him. That was like one thing. I guess I just haven't seen Jack Nicholson, like a picture of him in that time period or what he looked like in that movie. But the minute I saw him, I was like, oh, I don't like that. That's why I think it's like something back from my childhood from watching it the first time that he terrified the crap out of me.
Yeah, he's definitely sketchy the whole movie. And that's what gives you that, like you said, that anxious feeling the whole time.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of are so curious about what the hell is going on. And I still don't even really know what the hell is going on. Is it just the place is just haunted?
So,
you read the book? Or
no, I haven't read the book. That's why I would be interested. What was it, the other movie that I had watched for the first time with you? I think it was The Green Mile, that it was like, I started it and I was like, dang, this is kind of set up like, and I didn't know if I was just studying at the time, but like a Stephen King novel. But this one is too.
The Green Mile is a Stephen King.
I know. That's what I mean. Like, I could tell.
You've seen that? I thought you haven't seen that movie.
No, we watched that movie together.
When?
At the fraternity house. All the memories from the fraternity house, just like.
A little blurry.
No, yeah, because that's the only time I had ever seen it.
You seen when he grabs a guy's dick and helps him out?
Yes, with the UTI.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's Tom Hanks. Yeah.
I don't remember watching that with you.
Okay.
I would have bet you haven't seen that movie.
No, and then that one, and then it's almost like when you watch the movies based off of his books, I feel like I can tell that it's his books by how the movie is set up almost. Because, okay, so the opening shot is beautiful, but it's also meant to show you how far out and secluded this place is.
I was going to mention how cool the cinematography was in the beginning because it shows how beautiful it is, but also how secluded it is at the same time.
Yeah.
Because hotels are beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of. Back in the day, probably. But you walk around and it's like a nice place, beautiful scenes. It's like a badass ski resort, but it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's just so gigantic, but so empty.
Well, remember, he says it's not a ski resort. That's why they're there during the winter. It's because they close down during the winter because the snow gets so bad. So from the get-go, they're telling him a bunch of stuff that would deter a regular person to go up there.
Well, honestly, I wouldn't mind staying there.
Well,
maybe not for that long, but like I think having a resort to yourself just to work there and just.
But they're right. It's the seclusion gets to people. And so they set it up early on. They're like, the seclusion can drive people mad. The roads are completely blocked off. So that's to foreshadow. And then the story that I was asking you at the beginning of the movie, whenever she's like, oh, is this where the, I can't remember the name of the group. Do you remember? I just recall the story whenever they brought it up. I was like, oh, is this where that group of people went missing that had to resort to cannibalism?
Oh.
And that's when I looked over at you and I was like, did you learn about that in school? Because I definitely did. And so it's almost to set up the type of desperation people have whenever you're absolutely in the middle of nowhere.
Stranded.
Yeah. And the way it like kind of makes you go crazy. So from the get-go, it sets it up to be this scene that we can now, seeing how it unfolded, we could see that was foreshadowing at the beginning.
Yeah, it's not like frustrating as in it's not enjoyable, but it does get frustrating because you constantly see, like, they're secluded, he's a little crazy, and then the son's a little crazy too. He's got something going on with him. So
did you catch what the cook said?
Yeah.
That he's like the only one, and so, but he calls it like Tony, but his father being linked to the actual hotel itself, I think makes it more than just a regular gift because it's darker. That's why the cook was so confused.
Well, I think Tony is just a section of him It's like a version of himself that he created.
That's what I mean.
But he still has the shining.
Yeah.
Because he sees the flashes.
Tony is like the dark part. Think about what Tony shows him.
No, Tony tells him to stay clear. He always tries to protect him.
Yeah, but it shows him all the scary stuff. That's what I'm saying. It's like Tony's the part of the shining that's connected to, because like you said, you don't know. I think he was connected to it all along. Like Jack is, because it shows the picture at the end.
Yeah.
In 1921. Okay. So, and then the guy that died before him, that was the predecessor of the guy that hired him, he goes, "You were always the caregiver."
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did.
And then he knew the name of the bartender. There was no way of him knowing that.
Well, I just figured he was just crazy.
I figure he's the first one to go crazy in that hotel. That he was the first caregiver. How else would he have been in that picture from 1921, looking as young as he does?
Yeah, so what does that mean now? Like, what is the movie?
Well, so it took place in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
So I believe, without, reading the book and just that being the first time as an adult watching the movie, is that it was him like all along. He was the first one to like be left at the hotel.
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, so what is the movie now then? Like, what do we... If it's taking place in the 70s, but he also did it in the 20s, then who is he now?
I mean, I'm not super sure, other than it could have been just all... I'm not super sure, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like a little confused on it because I don't know exactly what the movie means or like what all the... Because there's a lot of weird stuff that happened there. You're like, what the hell is that? Like whenever the weird like furry...
Yeah, the furry... Well, it was a man in like a bear suit.
Yeah, it was before. It was the 70s version of what's it called? A furry getting down on some guy.
Yeah,
in a hotel room.
Yeah, that was weird.
So like, what is that?
Just the hotel.
There's got to be some stuff that like maybe connects to the book. Like that's just symbolism from the book. It's maybe a little deeper, and it just showed that because that's a good, it's a part of the book maybe.
I think the hotel was trying to show her stuff to throw her off. Because she was the only one, like when he was stuck in the pantry and the hotel, like imagine all the ghosts that we saw and stuff, that's just the hotel talking to him and trying to get him to do their bidding, and they want her gone. So they're trying to throw her off because he said she ended up being way more resourceful than we had originally counted on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she also, she's resourceful because she also is doing his job.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing is that we see her, like they tell him at the beginning, you're responsible for any repairs that happen. She's checking off the list and he's like, I'm working and all this. And then what is he working on? The same sentence over and over and over again. Nothing. Yeah. And he's like, you kept me from doing everything in my life. But like he literally for a whole month was throwing a ball up against a wall. Like, come on now, man.
Yeah. I would love to see somebody smarter than us break this movie down.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have watched a YouTube video prior to hitting record.
No, because that takes the fun out of
it. I guess
it's
so.
Our interpretation as, average moviegoers. Yeah, I would think.
I do think, though, I do disagree with you a little bit about Tony being the bad guy. I'm not sold on it. I don't disagree with you. I'm not sold on it because Tony was the one that was telling what's the boy's name?
Danny.
Yeah, Tony was telling Danny to not go to the hotel. He said, don't go.
Yeah.
So Tony was like the part of him that was trying to protect him. And then when bad things would happen, Tony would come out and say, Danny's not here. Danny went away. It's almost like Tony stepped in to protect Danny.
Yeah, maybe to have him black out so he wouldn't remember it.
Yeah, it's like a coping mechanism. Yeah. So Tony comes in.
I'm not saying that Tony's really like the bad, but it's almost like Tony's what connects him to what's going on in the hotel. Like then the regular shining gift is what I mean. We talked about there's a lot of quotes from this movie, but do you remember like my mom would always go like, "Rad ram, rad ram."
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Tony was, I guess maybe Tony was the one that knew what happened.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying, like, Tony was showing him flashes of what would happen. But I feel like the gift that he was talking about, that the cook was talking about, it was being able to tell the future. So we saw that.
Read minds.
I guess converse with whatever force was in that hotel. So it's just an all-knowing gift or something. I wonder if we watched the sequel, if that would give us clarity.
Not sure. Was that a book?
Yeah. That released like a few years ago, and they came out with the movie.
No, but I liked it. I thought it was creepy.
Yeah, it like really keeps you on the edge of your seat. The music,
Yeah.
which is something that adds to it that, I mean, obviously you can't portray in a book, but the music was interesting because it was almost like at some points you would think that it didn't fit, but it did, because you're supposed to feel uneasy the entire fucking time you're in that hotel.
Oh yeah, it's almost like you know it's gonna go bad. You know what you're getting into when you go to watch it. So when you see him act untrustworthy, you're like, God damn it, like he's gonna do something crazy.
Yeah.
It's like you just know it because you don't trust him because he's always being weird. So he's like such an untrustworthy character. So like no matter what he's doing, you're kind of like, oh shit, what is he gonna do?
Yeah.
Plus you don't really believe, because you know he's done something bad before and just got away with it because she, protects him by just like undermining him, yanking the hell out of his son, snapping his arm out of his socket.
Yeah, what the fuck was that about?
So,
and she's like, oh,
just happens.
It just happens. Just something that happens. And the lady's like,
yeah, he's drunk as hell.
Yeah. And the hotel was...
So he's capable of violence and you don't trust him already.
Yeah.
So you're like, you just know, something. They talk about somebody getting axe murdered. He's acting weird. You're like, he's going to freaking axe murder them.
Well, yeah, because whenever they bring it up to him, he's like, that's fine. Everything's fine. It's like he was like, yes, that's what I want to do. Please give me this job that I can do that.
Yeah, I want to know, like, okay, was he real?
Maybe I can read the book and let you know. Because that is one that's been on my list for a while. That one and Christine, too. I need to pick up that one.
That's a big one.
Okay, so Stephen King does this thing where he makes the main character a writer in a lot of his books. At least, so in that one, in Salem's Lot, the main guy was a writer. And in Misery, the main guy is a writer. That's another one I want to read too. I've read like the first part of it, but I didn't ever finish it.
Dude, I couldn't imagine reading a whole book that's just depressing. So now you're going to be just reading like depressing material.
Yeah.
For like a while.
Yeah. And imagine like all those shots, those long shots showing the rooms.
Yeah.
And the way that I said Stephen King likes to describe in great detail. There's probably chapters of just describing this room.
I bet. I mean, but I bet hopefully he's a good writer. So hopefully, like, from experience, because you've read the books, does he lighten it up in some points to make it more enjoyable? Or is it always just like misery, just like, it's like, oh, this is brutal. Like it's entertaining because it's like you keep wanting to know what happens next, but it's just like so brutal the whole time.
No, that's like, so like in Salem's Lot, that's what it was like. He was giving us little bits and pieces of a story, and like, I'm just curious. I want to know what's going on. So imagine like watching that, and he's seeing flashes of the little girls in the hallway, and there's a bunch of weird shit happening. And then like in one, did you also notice that the time stamps for like, it goes a month and then Monday, Tuesday, and then it gets closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
It's getting more and more intense and more things are happening. And it's almost like the simplicity of that font and the way that it just like on the screen like makes it more real. And as it's inching closer and closer together, you're like, oh shit, some shit's about to go down.
Yeah. It's getting exponentially worse.
Yeah.
Spiraling out of control.
Yeah. And then you think that help is coming. And I knew that I was waiting for him to die. I was like, damn it, I know this guy
right in
dies.
the heart. But going back to what you were saying, I was going to say reading a book like that, though, is... Because usually after you finish a book, you feel a certain way.
Yeah. It's called the catharsis.
What do you mean?
It's called feeling of... like a satisfying feeling in whatever end.
I don't mean that.
That's what it's called.
No, I don't mean that. I mean like when you read a book, like after you read a certain book, kind of the whole theme of it or the way it made you feel kind of lingers. Like if you read, like when I read like The Gray Man, it kind of makes you feel like a badass. You're like, oh yeah, like you kind of get hyped up because, you know, the main character you just followed for the whole book is a badass. He just completed his mission. Mm-hmm. And then like you read Dune, you're kind of like, you know, you feel important almost because like you kind of feel like that character because you just read him and you read Paul going through and becoming the king. You know, that's like, you feel a certain way afterward. Is that what that means?
Yes, that's literally
you said
what
satisfaction.
I just said.
I didn't mean.
Well, no, it's just the way that a story ends and how it makes you feel. In whatever way that you get closure on it, that's like kind of what it is. It's like this washover feeling. Like if it's a happy ending, then you end happy. If it's just however it leaves you feeling. And like any story that's good has a good catharsis, whether it makes you feel good or bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of just how you feel coming to terms with the end of the story.
Yeah.
Which they did get out. So I think you're just confused at the end of this one.
Yeah, I was saying if you read the book, it would be a bad catharsis. Yeah. New word unlocked. Miss English major.
I don't know. Maybe it's better in the book. Maybe it ends with... Because, like, Salem's Lot kind of ends that way, too. It's just, like, done. It's over. He kills the main vampire in 2 sentences.
Really?
Yes, bro. The end of that shit, it's like, it leads up, and so they can only get them at when they're sleeping during the daytime, and he just stumbles upon all of their nests and just goes up to the main one and stabs him, and then it's literally over.
Was that it had to be meaningful, right? Like, what was the purpose of that?
So you have to stab the main one to kill all of them.
I know that, but I'm saying the ending had to be like that for a reason, right?
It kind of just felt like it was over.
Or maybe he just...
Well,
maybe
actually...
that wasn't the point of the book and he just needed to wrap it up. He's like, all right, it's time to kill him.
Yeah. Just bored at that point. He's like, okay, I'm over it.
Time to wrap this book up. Dead.
Yeah, man. It was... Yeah.
Well, sometimes when you're writing, it's hard to get an ending. You just got to like end it.
Well, other than the bad guy ending, what else could there have been? Just like in that one, in The Shining, what else could we have wanted other than him dying?
Yeah, I mean, you could have seen him die. You could have seen him freeze. Could have seen them get away what they're like in the car.
We did. We saw the snowmobile go away, and then in the morning, it shows him in the morning like frozen to death. I'm
saying, but we could have seen him actually like start to freeze, begin freezing, and then freeze all the way, and then see their shot of them in the car like hugging or something.
Yeah, if that would have given you better closure, then yeah.
But then again, maybe the book doesn't want to leave you with good closure.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's like, you want to know they got away. You want to know that they got away, but you don't want to. If you saw them hugging and stuff, you're like, oh yay, happy ending. But this movie, you don't really feel like that when it's done. Yeah. Even though they get away and everything, you're kind of like, ooh, still.
Yeah, it's meant to leave you with an unsettling.
So it's probably smarter that they didn't show a happy ending or show them. It kind of made it abrupt ending because it kind of makes you feel off.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. Definitely makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah, I watching it again now, I definitely caught a bunch of stuff that I obviously didn't see as a child. I just remember
What'd you catch?
Well, one thing was that the house was trying to almost like to bring him things from like a good married family man, because the only other story that they have of like it's the same type of thing. It's like a man that's driven to like provide for his family, even though we do know that he's kind of, fucked up at the beginning, but he has a wife and a kid, right? But the hotel is trying to drive him to do things that like commit adultery. It like wanted to get him to make out with that naked lady.
Yeah.
Which, wow, full frontal nudity for a woman. Like that was all hanging out there.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing covered up at all. Forgot about that one. But I do remember when she turned into a gross old lady. So then that one, and then alcohol, because he had
a drinking problem.
Yeah, the house gave him alcohol. And then it wasn't letting him sleep.
It did say that, huh?
Yeah.
It was like, this one's on the house.
Yeah.
And then it said, it was something like, whoever's buying a drink doesn't concern you right now.
Yeah.
Or something like that. He's mentioned, like, you don't need to know who, you're not ready to know.
No, he said, it's on the house. And then he's like, oh, the house. He's like, the house doesn't want you to worry about it. He's like, the house says it doesn't matter right now. Like, you don't need to know that right now.
Yeah, no, that's what because he asked, I want to know who's buying my drinks. He asked that, and they said, well, you don't need to know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not ready for that information.
Yeah. So the house is like slowly, and then he's not sleeping. So he's like going further and further. And it's like it's trying to draw him out to away from being like a good family man to like turn on his family.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot, I feel, for a man to go from loving his wife and his child to wanting to chop them up with a freaking axe.
Yeah.
You know? Great evils at work over there.
I mean, he's setting himself up for utter failure. He's not getting sleep.
Yeah.
He's making himself alone in a giant room. That makes you feel even more alone.
Yeah.
Something funny about that, actually. So I'm sure in the book that's similar. Like that's the same thing. Like he probably writes in a giant open room on a big desk, like he does. In Stephen King's book, every time we talk on this podcast, we talk about Stephen King.
It's brilliant.
That book, his book about writing and his philosophy, he says he doesn't believe you should write a book in the middle of a room because you don't deserve, like, who are you to think that you can write on a throne? It's like you need to earn it every single time. So he puts his desk in the corner and sits in the corner and writes like he did when he was broke. Because he's like, I'm not anybody special. I gotta earn it every single time. I don't deserve to be in the middle of a room. So he always prefers to write in the center, on the corner of the desk. And Jack thinks he's a good writer. He's like, kind of full of himself, and he puts himself in a giant room all alone, sitting down.
Yeah, and he hadn't accomplished jack shit.
No.
Like they said he was a teacher turned writer, but he hadn't wrote anything. He wasn't published or anything like that.
Hasn't finished a book. He needed to get away so he could finally finish, which is just an excuse.
Yeah, and she's like, how's it going? And he's like, I got a lot of ideas and none of them are good. But he never had them, Yeah. And in Misery, I do know that the writer in that one, like the main character, is very like well accomplished. And it's about that he wants to go a different direction, and one of his fans doesn't like it and like kidnaps him and makes him like holds him against his will to finish this book in the way that she wants it to be finished, which is like, I do believe that he puts himself in a lot of these stories. He was probably like, and alcoholic and stuff like that. A lot of his characters are alcoholics and writers and stuff. And he was probably, when he was putting himself in The Shining, he was like, I'm just, I haven't accomplished jack shit, and almost like portraying the worst parts of himself.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily like specifically himself in there, but he's definitely like parts of himself are in that character. Yeah. That's just natural, I think, with any character. You're right.
Well, yeah, he's not gonna. I'm not saying it's verbatim because then it's. I mean, I don't think he went crazy like that. Yeah.
One part that I thought was interesting too is the shot when the kid on the bike, the tricycle, rolling through the hallways. Mm-hmm. The camera focus isn't focused on him; it's focused on the background. Mm-hmm. So like as he's pedaling, he's center frame, taking up the majority of the space of the picture, but he's not in focus. The background is, so it's almost like you're trying to like look past him. Like, what is he? what is he going toward? You can't see because it makes you feel uneasy. You also, knowing the movie and knowing the what's it called? The iconic shots, what's going to happen. The two girls are going to be there. So it's still, that made me feel more anxious, but still I think the shot of just him being blurry and the background being in focus, because you don't see that normally. It's always what's in the center frame is what's in focus, but he's not in this shot. So you're kind of like trying to peek around him, like I said, trying to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Or where he's going or what's in front of him.
Well, also he's turning corners really fast.
Yeah.
So you're always wondering what's going to be around the next corner, and because it goes for a long time that you're like, okay, something's about to happen. And then also to that point, following him is showing his point of view from like being down there, and like imagine like coming, it's almost like we could see it from his eyes, from his back.
Yeah.
What did you think of the wife?
In what regard?
Well, a lot of people say that like her acting, like her fear acting was one of the best, and like it was so, for me, I would say it was pretty genuine.
Well, I think
it was pretty terrifying.
I've heard Stanley Kubrick made her cry so much that she was like actually broken on those scenes. Like she was like literally like felt emotionally drained. So like all that just raw emotion was true.
Yeah.
In a sense, she probably wasn't suffering horribly, like she knows it's a movie, but because she had to keep crying, her headspace was in a bad spot.
Yeah.
So she said it was a hard scene to do, but he brought out that hard hitting performance of her true raw emotions of feeling just terrified and lost and confused and all that, because he kept retake, and she kept having to cry and cry and cry and cry.
Yeah.
And it just got tiring.
Yeah. Well, and like even just how she looks, her eyes are very like wide-eyed, and she's super almost like naive to it, and she's just a very, simple woman that just wants the best for her child and everything. And like even the house, bet everything else on her. They're like, this is going to be a piece of cake. And then they're like, actually, she's a little smarter than we thought.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to figure this out. And then she ends up being the one that gets him out of there, even though he's just like ridiculing her the entire time. Like, you're always trying to fuck my life up and you haven't done anything. But it's like, what have you done, dude?
Yeah, you ain't done jack shit. She's been taking care of the kid. She's been cooking food. She's been taking care of your responsibilities that you are getting hired for and you're getting paid for.
Yeah, what was that? She was in the boiler room?
Yeah, she was doing
like
something.
Checking on the tanks and stuff?
Yeah, something.
Like, you go, girl. Holy crap.
But, yeah, just...
I'm trying to think what else. There were a lot of components in that. It was very simple. It's a simple...
Well... It starts it off simple and then it gets real confusing and conflicted, because now you're like, okay, was he real? Is he just a reincarnation? And his reincarnation is always meant to go back to this spot.
Or maybe he's just frozen, maybe him freezing to death shows that he's like frozen in time. Or maybe he's taken by the house, so the house put him in that picture, I don't know. I feel like there could be a lot of different things going on.
What I'm so curious about. I'm definitely going to watch a YouTube video after this to see what, people break it down, and years of studying, because the movie's been out for, what is that, 40 years, 43 years?
What year did it come out?
1980, 43 years.
Yeah.
43-year-old movie, so,
That's so crazy. Is it not that like the 80s were like, as the years go on, it just gets further and further back. That's how we're about to feel.
That's how time works.
Okay, I didn't need that.
Isn't it crazy how time just moves forward? And that's how we get old? That's literally what you just said.
Okay, let's rate this movie.
All right.
Rude.
What do you rate the movie? Out of 10. You can't re-say it.
Okay.
Think about all aspects.
Are
the
you ready?
cinematography.
Yeah. Are
the
you
enjoyability.
Ready? You ready?
I guess so.
I give it a 7.3.
Damn. That's low.
I think it's fair.
You're fucking grade 2.0, bro.
Nuh-uh.
Yes,
At
you
least
are.
I don't change my shit after you say something.
I don't change mine.
No, I'm not saying that. I was talking about Gray.
Gray doesn't change.
Oh.
That's
Didn't
the rule.
he used to change?
No, the rule is you can't change.
Oh.
You have to just say your score. That's why.
Well, I just said it, so you can't say that that's the rule and then dog my rating after I
Yes,
say
I can.
it. No, you can't.
This is a free country.
Okay, well, it's a free country. I can change my score if I want to.
No, not on this show.
Okay, what are you giving it?
I was going to give it an 8.
Okay, that's 0.7 more than mine.
That's a lot of points.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Nuh-uh.
That's pretty substantial. An 8, you're getting into great territory in the 8s.
Yeah.
A 7's like, you're like, you're like, that was good, but it wasn't like, it's not going to be a classic or stand-up of all time. Like, it's not one of the greatest movies made.
I think it is one of those just because it was one of the first to, like, kind of do stuff like that.
Yeah. I gave it an 8 because it made me feel anxious. I enjoyed watching it. I was curious the whole time. I was locked in the whole time, despite it being a little bit of a slower movie.
That is true, yeah.
It's a little bit of a slower
almost 3
movie.
hours.
Nah, it was like 220.
Oh, okay.
But for some reason on Google, they always say they add like 30 minutes, 20 minutes of the credits as the runtime.
Oh.
So it was 220, but I gave it an 8 because I felt anxious. I was scared during it. I liked the cinematography and the shots were really cool. Their performances were great.
Yeah, the shots were really cool. And also...
I was sorry. I was just going to say it was a little bit of a slower movie, but it kept me locked in and engaged the entire time.
Yeah. Well, and great child acting, especially for back then. Like, I felt like the kid was really believable. You don't think so?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I was just going to say he didn't really do much. Just stared.
I think he went from, like...
He talked like this.
Okay, but, like, did you see his face and his eyes whenever he had to talk like that? He was, what, 7 years old?
I don't know.
And he's, like, so cute at the beginning and just, like, wide-eyed and kind of, like... But then as it progresses at the hotel, and even whenever he becomes... Or when Tony's talking to him, he goes, like, dead-eyed, you know?
Yeah.
And then... he's like really scared in other parts. Like, I mean, he's 7 years old and he's able to invoke that emotion for the camera. I would say that's good child acting.
Yeah.
You try to get like a child to do stuff like that.
No, I get it. I'm just saying impressive childhood acting would be like when you're like, damn, that performance was great. Like when they bring out emotion, they actually like act. Give
me an example of a child doing that.
I couldn't give you one right now, but there are some.
Okay.
I don't have an example up to bat, but...
Have you ever seen Super 8?
No.
You've never seen Super 8?
No.
It's a Spielberg. It's so good. It's about a bunch of kids that find an alien, and they like kind of film it on like a Super 8 camera. Yeah.
I mean, I'd be down to watch it.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah.
I think that came out when we were kids because I grew up watching
I remember.
that one.
Yeah, I remember coming out seeing trailers for it. Super 8.
Yeah, that was really good.
And the music was great.
Yeah, the score was awesome.
Enhances the movie significantly.
Yeah.
It's just that creepy.
Yeah.
There's like those harsh sounds, just like.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was talking about. It's like it made it more jarring because it felt like in moments where the music didn't belong there, they still put it there.
Yeah.
So it was like you were constantly feeling uneasy because you're like, okay, well, I thought I was safe for 20 seconds. And then it's like, I guess some shit's about to go down.
Yeah. Like they're doing something like, even though it's like, you know, it's going to happen. Like when he's writing Murder.
Yeah.
Or when he's writing Red Rum.
Yeah.
And you know something's gonna happen, and then you know something's gonna happen, but you know it's not gonna happen soon. Like you know it's building, like it's just starting to build. Despite that, though, you hear a sharp like violin, stab, and you're like, oh, and you're like, okay, we're good now. Nothing's happening. He keeps writing the words, and nothing's happened. And just randomly throughout the score, sometimes in these like intense scenes, it would be just a hard hitting note, and that kind of makes you a little nervous. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because like you don't usually that only happens on when it happens, but it happens randomly. So you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Startles you a little bit.
Yeah, you're meant to never feel safe in this hotel.
Yeah.
Like at all.
But honestly though, I feel like that would be fun staying in an entire resort. I don't know about for like, how many months was it?
5. 1 month in was when he started going crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if I could stay there for 5 months, but it would be nice to just have a peaceful, quiet resort to yourself.
Yeah, but that big of a place, and like that's creepy as hell.
You would need a sound system to blast music all the time to fill the noise, so it's not so quiet.
I don't think I could ever not know what was going on in like a totally different part. Like I would need them to close down like most of it.
What do you mean? Like you wouldn't want to have access to half of it?
I wouldn't want to like wonder what's going on in like the southern wing of it, you know?
But there's nobody there.
Is there though?
They emptied it out.
Okay, I don't even in any capacity. I was like, there's something there at all times. Did you notice at the beginning when she's like, oh, I love all the decor in there, and it's like all like Native American decor, and then they're like, oh yeah, they say that this was built on an Indian burial ground. So they built a hotel that are all like tourists and like, and I will say mostly white people, you know, in this hotel. They built it on an Indian burial ground, and then they used Native American decor in that hotel.
Yeah.
And they said, which is, I hate hearing it, man. I hate it. I don't care what time period it is. They use the N-word in this movie, and I just, so unnecessary. And it's like the two guys that you're supposed to hate the most are the ones that say it. So I'm like, okay, well now I hate you worse.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy way to get somebody to show they're bad guys if they're using that word willy-nilly, like using it negatively.
Yeah, and it's not even like the slang one either.
No,
like
hard R.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Two white dudes, absolutely not.
That's how you show it's like a bad guy who doesn't have any morals. Right?
Yeah.
That's a simple, quick way to show that's a bad guy.
Yeah. Well, and because the guy that they were talking about was the one to come in and save them.
Yeah.
And they were using that term on top of it. You know, it's all pointing bad.
Yeah. Well, because I guess the house sensed the boys shining and how the old man, the guy was attracting. The old man just kind of the chef kind of sensed something was going to happen, or that something was happening. That's why he was so worried about them.
Yeah.
So he just knew.
Well, the first time he brings up even The Shining, he talks about that him and his grandma could communicate together.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that we realized, oh, he maybe also has what the kid has, is because they communicate to each other.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he was blacking out and then Tony was the one talking to the chef, because we never saw him and the chef like interact telepathically other than at the beginning.
Yeah, but no, he talked to him because remember he was saying he told him who Tony was.
Yes, I mean after he had gone back to Florida. That's why I was like, maybe Danny was blacking out and Tony was the one communicating with Homeboy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think maybe there's a clue, but I don't know if there's a way for us to know.
Yeah, maybe it's just a feeling.
Yeah, because I don't think the boy was trying to communicate with the old man. I think the chef. I think the chef was just communicating. The chef wasn't even communicating. He just sensed something was happening, and the house also sensed that he sensed something was happening.
Yeah, it must be like a connection to like the beyond of like.
Yeah, I think it's just everything. A consciousness kind of just like energy kind of deal where you just kind of
the force.
Yeah, they practice enough they can become Jedis.
Yeah, this is actually the Star Wars.
Prequel. Yeah. Origin story.
Yeah. Also, did you notice how like in 1970 times, like they just communicate to like each other so nicely. Like when they're talking to the cops, it's like, okay, thanks, bye. You know, which is like they just
that
sound
was just
so
forest
nice.
protection or something like that.
Well, either way,
Yeah.
I'm just talking about interaction with human beings, like in general.
Yeah, everybody's so genuine.
Everyone's so nice. Yeah. And they're like, okay, thanks.
He's like, hey, do you mind checking up? The chef calls him, hey, do you mind checking up on them? I want to make sure they're okay with the storm. He's like, yeah, sure. I can do that for you. Let me call you back in 20 minutes, let you know. He's like,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. He's not like, oh, they're fine, or,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Somebody's calling to make a request for them to do work. He's like, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I probably should check on him.
Yeah, everyone's so like chipper. And then you go back to like the hotel where it's like terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely makes sense why this movie was a classic, because
yeah. Did you enjoy this one more than Silence of the Lambs?
That's tough.
Different types of movies.
I think I did. What did I score Silence of the Lambs?
I don't know.
Oh, you didn't watch that one, probably.
I wasn't here. Yeah.
Didn't even support the show.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to hear it.
But I think I did enjoy this one more.
Yeah.
They were both good movies. I enjoyed both of them, but I think this one was the better one.
Are you not saying which one y'all are going to do next week? What's
You already
next
said
week?
it.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, earlier.
Oh, yeah, because it is. Well, is it? Oh, yeah, next week is Halloween week.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So it's Halloween.
Yep.
Which is also very underwhelming as an old like scary movie. That one I have watched recently with my mom, and I'm like, okay, it's like Jamie Lee Curtis is a little over dramatic, but it's like, it's just one of those movies.
Yeah.
It's like old, so it's not that
and
scary.
It's horror.
Yeah.
And horror is a very easy genre to make.
Yeah, you can make it with zero money, and it makes so much.
Yeah,
much.
Because people just like the thrill of watching a horror movie and the jump scares. That's what people go to them. And so it's really easy to make a horror movie that people that don't really like good movies but just want to watch a horror movie, they'll like it.
You know what are good horror movies, though? You know what I'm going to say?
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring movies are so freaking good. The storylines are really good.
Yeah.
Even like the spin-offs, they're scary as hell. Oh my gosh, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen in my life is Annabelle Creation. It's like how she first came to be, and oh my gosh, even just thinking about it, I'm like getting chills.
I think I've seen that. Maybe I know I've seen like the witch one.
Which one?
The witch one.
The first one.
No.
With the tree out in the front.
That's the first one.
This
one was like a title with like a witch in it. Maybe it's not part of The Conjuring. Maybe I'm thinking of something different. Because The Conjuring is like a franchise.
Yes. Yeah.
Annabelle's a part of it. Conjuring's a part of it. There's something else part of it.
The Nun is a part of it.
I didn't watch The Nun.
Yeah, that one.
Dude, why is that so creepy? Why are nuns and like religious things like that so creepy?
Because it's just like, it's something that you don't touch. It's like, I feel like we associate all evil things with like the devil. So it's like when it comes into contact with holy things, it just feels wrong. It's just wrong.
I guess you're right, because that, and you think about kids, like little kids, when those are creepy as fuck, because, seeing a kid be evil, you're like, what the fuck? Like, what?
Yeah.
That kid's been taken by the devil.
Yeah. And it's wrong, because children are supposed to be innocent, and so it's almost like a perversion of that, which just feels wrong.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense with the nun and then a doll.
Yeah, a doll, something that's supposed to be enjoyable by children. Even with this one, like having like a child be the one that's like, has that. It's taking like the vulnerability of being young and just wide-eyed and just
Dude, I was watching this movie and I was thinking about that poor kid. Think about the trauma that kid's gonna have when he grows up.
Well, we watched the second one, we can see it.
I guess so, because
I think he's like an alcoholic and all
probably,
that. He's
dude,
fucked up from this. Yeah,
he was so traumatized prior to this that he created a second identity, like an imaginary friend that talks to him, and that his brain doesn't realize. Like he's talking and not knowing what the other person is going to say. He's been able to split identities up in his head.
Yeah.
It's not just like an imaginary friend that you're like kind of like playing with, and like he actually is asking the
Yeah, and remember when he doesn't
Tony
tell
questions. Him? Yeah, Tony won't tell him things.
Yeah.
So, he's had that much trauma prior, so now he has split up his identity. He's got somebody to take over his mind for himself whenever things get real sketchy.
Yeah.
His dad tried to kill him.
Yeah. Oh, remember before he started going really, really crazy whenever he goes into the bedroom to look for his fire truck and his dad's sitting up in the bed.
Yeah.
And he knew in that moment because he called him over and he was and you can see him his dad hugs him and kisses him. And that is just the face of a child that is not comfortable at all.
No, he doesn't trust his dad because his dad's hurt his arm before. Came in drunk and hurt his arm. And I'm sure he's yelled at his mom a few times and he's probably been a little wild if he was an alcoholic and had to quit drinking.
Yeah, but also he was kind of more laid back with his dad in the car. Because he's Dad, I'm hungry. And he's well, you should have eaten your breakfast. It's a very normal conversation with a child and a father.
But if you notice, he said that and he asked his mom and he's thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
Because his dad always treats him bad. He asked his dad because his dad's the boss. And then his mom said, we'll eat food when we get to the hotel. He goes, okay, thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
She came in and stepped in and saved him. So he's definitely more comfortable with his mom just because I think he's just asking his dad because he knows his dad's the boss.
Yeah. I mean,
because he was just I
think that was meant to show us at the beginning,
some sense of normalcy for sure.
Yeah, and
but still, it just felt weird because of how
family dynamic.
Yeah, it still just felt weird. It felt weird because he's so weird the whole movie.
Yeah. Oh, and at the beginning when they both go into the maze and he's never been in the maze, so whenever Danny runs into the maze at the end, you're oh, he's got this. He's been in there with his mom.
Yeah, but he didn't get to the middle though.
He did. That's where he backtracked.
Oh, is that where he was it?
Yeah. 100%.
I didn't see the benches.
Snow.
I don't know if he was there. I think he just ran somewhere.
Because I feel I saw the open rectangle and then the lights on the side because that's where he backtracked his feet.
Yeah.
And then he went back into the bushes and then I think he went the opposite way around.
Smart kid, backtracking.
Yeah, he was noticing that his dad was following his footsteps. Yeah.
Dude, that's sketchy having to run from somebody and you got the snow below you.
Oh my gosh. Or even just I couldn't even imagine that.
You'd have to get crazy. A lot of distance and then start to cover your tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting chased, dude. He was smart though. He did he wasn't a frustrating escape.
No.
It was an anxious escape, but you're okay, thank God he's smart enough to do the right thing.
Yeah, both him and his mom, and that's good. Just goes back to him being oh, you two are so dumb and everything. It's oh yeah, motherfucker. Well, you didn't even notice that he erased his tracks. So who's really the dumb one here?
Yeah. It was a good movie.
Yeah, I liked it. But I do stand by my 7.3.
Despite the acting, the music,
and the acting
the cinematography.
was amazing. Just Jack Nicholson, very iconic lines. And you can only hear them by him. Yeah.
He's played a couple weird characters. He played a crazy guy in one... something Fly Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
One Fly Over the Cuckoo's Nest or something like that.
Cuckoo's Nest?
Cuckoo's Nest?
One... I don't know.
Let's look it up just before we wrap this thing up. Jack Nicholson.
You haven't seen the original Halloween?
Nope. No, I've seen the newer ones though.
I've seen the newer ones.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Cuckoo. I'm pretty sure it's cuckoo. I've never heard someone say cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
Tell us in the comments if it's cuckoo, because I'm pretty sure it's cuckoo, not cuckoo. Who says that?
That's how it's spelled, cuckoo. One flew over the cuckoo's nest.
Cuckoo.
All right.
Okay.
8, 7.2,
I said 7.3.
7.3.
Yeah.
Unjustified.
What do
Low.
you mean? What do you mean? I think it was great.
We'll rate it great.
I thought that was an above average rating. I'm not going to get
Sure.
into it with you with my ratings
Sure.
again. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
That's
thanks
fine.
for having me.
You're welcome.
Again.
Thank you for being back on the show, coming in clutch. Another time. Always count on Mercedes coming in clutch, saving the day.
It's almost like I sleep here.
Yep. Easy, very easy access. Very easy
access.
replacement. All right. Thank you guys for watching. If you want some Crown Cinema merch, go to crowncinemashop.com. You can get a cool hat like this, shirts, and here in a little bit, maybe we'll design some winter clothes.
Winter Launch by world-renowned designer Mercedes Zaragoza. Who is that? I wonder who that is.
I don't know.
How did you get her to, I heard it's pretty hard to, she asks a pretty hefty price to design.
Well,
it's pretty crazy.
Good thing that Mercedes Zaragoza is going away, because maybe Mercedes Harvey will cut discounts.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching, and we're out.